Welcome, Star Wars fans, episode 141 of Tatooine Sons. It's that weird time between Christmas and New Year's Day where there usually isn't any good Star Wars news to talk about, but this year is a little bit different. Samuel the Hutt will be excited to finally explore the details Jon Favreau shared on GMA about the Book of Boba Fett. A cryptic Instagram post by the official Star Wars account is teasing a future for Mace Windu. And the director of the next Star Wars theatrical release had a film hit theaters, and we loved it.
It was absolutely awesome.
It
was great.
Yeah. Surprisingly good.
Don't get cocky.
It's time for Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the Porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that Porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody listen to that.
Welcome, Star Wars fans. This is Tatooine Sons, your weekly look into all things Star Wars from the unique perspective of a father sharing his love for the amazing space fantasy saga with his two sons. I am BB Nate, and I'm joined first by my brother, Samuel the Hutt.
True to Star Wars fans, thanks for tuning in. And if you're not a Star Wars fan, then you were for sure impacted by Star Wars in some way this year because you can't avoid the Baby Yoda memes.
It's a Star Wars world, and we're all just living in it.
Amen.
It's true. And of course, you can't have Star Wars without bizarre father figures. So on that note, here's my dad, the Bowtie Jedi guy.
I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah, there's nothing to talk about.
You're right, BB Nate. It is that weird.
I mean, we could talk about how I actually had my Achuta before we started recording.
Well, that's a shocker.
I know, right?
It's like the first episode of the entire year. So even when we were doing the video stuff with Facebook, I think you were forgetting half the time while we were recording
usually.
it. Good job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Should we give him a little button?
Should we give him a button?
Achuta.
Yeah, I remembered my Achuta. Yeah, no, that's cool. So, it was Christmas this weekend.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas again. I know that we said that last week.
Yes,
but, you know,
you keep saying it again.
Kind of like the church service that we went to church on Christmas Eve, and then watched that service online this morning, and they sang a bunch of Christmas songs again. So I guess it's okay.
Statute of limitations isn't up yet.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, talk about Christmas. What did you guys? What was your favorite thing that you got this year for Christmas? Well, you may not be able to say it because we're going to save one for the end, but
yeah,
that one's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of good stuff. I mean, this year is a little weird. I'm getting older, so it's like I don't want as much stuff, you know.
And you don't ask for toys and
right.
Like that, yeah.
So, I mean, I got a new pair of Samsung Galaxy Buds Plus or whatever, which I've been wanting for a while actually, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. And I really love those. Those are nice. And I built a guitar a while back, and I finally was able to put a pickup in it, and I got this effects pack for it, so it puts distortion and all sorts of stuff on it. And that's been a lot of fun to play with. And I got fancy light bulbs to put in my room to change the colors and stuff. So it's been a lot of fun.
It's a very 19-year-old Christmas for you.
Yeah.
Let's do colored light bulbs in my room and stuff like that. What about you, BB Nate?
I got shirts, a lot of shirts.
You did.
You guys don't understand. BB Nate doesn't give a crap about that kind of stuff, like shirts and clothes. He's like, I'll find something in my drawer and I will put it on, and that's about all he does. Well, he's been wearing shirts that he's had for 4 or 5 years
at least.
Some of them are way too small. Some of them have
They've
holes.
All got holes.
And we were like, okay, let's help the kid out. So we got some shirts. So yeah, what was your favorite shirt you got? I know you got a lot of Batman shirts.
I did,
but he only had two.
Probably the long sleeve, the Batman shirt. I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm really excited for that movie.
Explain why you were so excited about that, Samuel.
Yeah, that was my gift to him. Well, part of my gift.
What is it? Explain what it is.
So it's the new logo, or the logo for the newest Batman movie, the Robert Pattinson one. That's going to be coming out. Pattinson, whatever. Yeah. That's going to be coming out sometime in the future.
2022.
But he had wanted one of those shirts ever since the DC Fandom or whatever. So I saw that and I was going to order it, but I was going to get him the t-shirt. And Mom's like, why don't you get him the long sleeve one? He needs some long sleeve shirts. I'm like, okay.
do.
So I got him that shirt, and I'm glad it was a hit.
That was cool. I got some shirts too, so I'm wearing one right now. It's got it's what is it? It's my
Tatooine Summer Camp. Tatooine Summer Camp, 2 Sons of Fun, Outer Rim Territories, Tattoo System, Arcanus Sector.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like an old camp shirt. I like it.
I like it. I like the ones that you can't really tell are Star Wars shirts until you take a look at them.
Mm-hmm.
I was wearing the one that Savannah's family gave me for Christmas, the Mos Eisley Cantina.
Oh, yeah,
one.
yeah.
Where was I? I was ordering food at a restaurant when I was wearing it. I guess we were coming back last Monday. We're coming back from Alabama, and I was ordering it somewhere, and this guy was like, I really like, it was the beef jerky guy at Buc-ee's. He's like, I really like your shirt. So
yeah. I got a shirt. It looks like the NASA logo, but it says Boba on there, and it's got the Slave One, which I really like. It's like 2 things I really
two
like.
of your favorite things on that. That's cool. So you got some shirts. What you also got the Spider-Man game?
I did. Miles Morales. It's very good so far. Feels just like a toned down version of the first one, following a new character, which it works well. And
so it's like the other Spider-Man game that came out a few years ago, but then they've got it with Miles Morales this time.
Yes, it's following the same storylines and everything.
You liked that game a lot.
I did. Cool. It was very good.
It was good.
It's got a comic and statues and stuff.
Yeah, some Batman stuff all over the place. Loving it. And I guess now that we've talked about Christmas, we can say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I know that this is going to come out a few days before, but let Tatooine Sons be the first to wish you Happy New Year's 2021. We're ready to turn the page on 2020.
I think everyone is.
I'm sure. But in the end, I was sitting here, we were getting the podcast room reset after taking all of our stuff to Alabama, and I was putting things away and thinking about this last year, and I tend to get very reflective at the end of every year. And I was thinking, as wild as this year was, and as challenging with COVID and the election silliness and all the stuff that's gone on throughout the country with the protests and riots and all of that kind of stuff. That's been bad, no doubt. It's been hard for all of us, but in the end, our year was a good year.
It really was, yeah.
And we were really truly blessed throughout the year, and it's amazing. I'm reading a book right now, and it's all about this idea of perspective and trying to make sure that I focus on not just it's not the power of positive thinking type stuff, like I'm not Max Lord from Wonder Woman, but it's more of like focus on the what is good in your life, because there is good in your life. If you look for it, it's there. So that's cool. So, and it's part of that it's about this podcast. This has been such a blessing to us. It's been so much fun to do, and we love doing it, and we're excited about the new year. We're excited about the changes that we're making in the show going into the new year, with having guests on. We're going to try to have guests on pretty much every week to join us in our conversations. We're going to follow the same format of the show. It's going to be hot takes and a topic and all of that. But next week you're going to have Dan Z on here, and we're going to be talking all about High Republic, and that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we've got some other guests coming up this week. Of course, whenever Savannah's around, either down here or we're up there, Savannah will be a part of it. Savvy, we want her, as long as you guys are you guys still good? Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, that's like 2 months of dating almost by this point.
No, it's not even been 1 month technically. That's tomorrow.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Man, that's been a long month, brother.
Yes.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Well, you made it to your 1 month anniversary.
Yeah. Well, by the time this is uploaded, yeah.
That's cool. Awesome. Very cool.
And she'll be glad to know I did not forget.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. Well, you got anything to say to her in front of the entire world?
Happy 1 month anniversary. Aww. I'm glad we made it, and I hope there's many more months to come.
There you go. Because she listens.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's awesome.
But only to the banter. She stops at hot takes.
Are you kidding me?
No, she just likes to hear what's going on in our life.
All right.
Now we're going to spruce things up and put the banters
at the end.
Well, no, in the middle.
We're going to move it around throughout the entire
little segments. Yeah.
Now, when we last met, we were uncertain about what the Book of Boba Fett really was and what that meant for the Mandalorian, but that's all been cleared up now. But is another dead character coming back to life? And then there's that whole Patty Jenkins. She has a new movie out. We've got opinions about it. Yeah. And that's all up next on Hot Takes.
This is where the fun begins. Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
All right, we talked a little bit about it last week, Samuel the Hutt, but we wanted to give an opportunity. Now that we know more information, let's dive in and go into greater detail about the Book of Boba Fett. Boba Fett is back, and according to StarWars.com, the story is just beginning. This is going to be starring Tamura Morrison, obviously playing Boba Fett, and we've got Ming-Na Wen. They announced last week. Jon Favreau was on Good Morning America, kind of gave the details about everything. Ming-Na Wen's going to be in it. It's going to be set within the timeline of The Mandalorian, and I thought it was interesting. We aren't surprised at all to hear that it was. It's going to be produced by executive produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, part of the Filoniverse, as everybody's kind of talking about it. But Robert Rodriguez, who actually did chapter 14, the big Boba Fett episode, he's also executive producing about that. What do you think about this series now that you know just a little bit more about it, Samuel?
No, I'm excited for this. I think it's good that they got Robert Rodriguez to do this, because he handled Boba Fett really well in that episode. He gave Boba Fett the justice he deserved. And if this episode, or if this series is going to be anything like that episode, we should be just fine. It's going to be awesome. But as for it being set in the timeline of The Mandalorian, I think that's interesting, because I think it's going to start. We're going to find a lot of those different shows being set during the same time period, but eventually converging on some sort of major point, right? Some major.
They talked about it, BB Nate, in the Investors Day announcement section, where they talked about this climactic event that was going to come together. Now, they did not announce the Book of Boba Fett at that, but it's obviously applying to, you got Mandalorian, you've got Ahsoka, you've got Rangers of the New Republic, and now you've got this series of the Book of Boba Fett all coming together. Is this really going to be a Filoniverse?
Probably. I think he's just wanting to put out his vision. Well, Favreau and Filoni are probably just wanting to put out their visions for new Star Wars characters' stories. It's not going to be revolving around the Skywalkers. It's just going to be revolving around characters that are already well established that people want to see more of. And so they're giving them this opportunity and platform to be able to tell those stories, and then they're going to just bring them all together to be able to kind of tie up the Mandalorian timeline to allow in the Acolyte and more Siri Lando and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm all for interconnectivity between these stories. I want to see little things happening in each episode that reference something that happened in another series. You know, I want to see the fact that this is a Star Wars universe and things are connected between these shows.
They said when they finished Phase 4 of the MCU, we finished Endgame, that going forward, if you're not watching all of the shows, you're going to miss things. If you're not watching all of the movies, you're going to miss things. They're going to be that interconnected. I get the feeling that at least when it comes to these four series, that you're going to have the same situation playing out, that they are going to be overlapping with that. And that goes to show you how much Star Wars and Disney is putting into Disney Plus. This idea of the streaming platform, it is the future of Star Wars. They've got these 2 films that are out there. We know there's more films that are going to be coming down the line, but they want to really sustain the brand and the enthusiasm of Star Wars around Disney Plus, and having a sort of this event-driven series of shows is going to be really cool. Very excited to continue with that. All right, this should get really interesting. Is there another fan favorite coming back from the dead? The official Star Wars social media account on both Instagram and I think it was on Twitter as well.
And Facebook.
Was it on Facebook as well? Wished Samuel L. Jackson a happy birthday, which is great. Happy birthday, Mace Windu.
Happy birthday, Mace Windu.
Exactly. Happy birthday, Samuel L. Jackson, and we're going to make sure we don't curse on this. So, but the reality is it got really interesting with some of the phrasing, because it opened up by saying, this party isn't over, it's just beginning.
I got a bad feeling about this.
So now we know that Jackson claims that George Lucas told him that Mace Windu isn't dead. Jackson said he didn't want Mace to be dead. He asked George if Mace Windu could be alive. And George was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's alive. That's fine. What do you think about this? Did he survive? BB Nate, did he survive that fall from Palpatine's office and then Order 66 and Revenge of the Sith?
It's very possible. I mean,
It's possible.
It's possible. But there were a ton of cars. We've seen Obi-Wan fall from heights that are unimaginable and then just land in a vehicle gracefully. And so it's possible. And the Empire wouldn't be looking for him if they assumed he was already dead. So there's no reason he shouldn't be able to survive Order 66 if he just kept his powers under wraps so that nobody knew about it. So it's
now Samuel had the episode 3 official game that came out with the movie actually has Mace surviving the fall.
Really?
In it, and he's killed later. You have to battle him a little bit later on in the as Anakin or Darth Vader. With it.
Interesting.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it really gotten to the point where if you fall in Star Wars that there really isn't any chance that you can be dead? We don't know that.
Oh, why would they bring her back? I mean, unless they jump even further into the timeline. Well, I guess they're doing that with certain things, but
maybe she's the big bad guy of Rogue Squadron when it comes out.
I don't think so. I really thought she was coming back in Rise of Skywalker, and they never did. I think that character is dead. But I get where you're coming from. I mean, Maul and Boba, and now, in this case, Mace, and I think there's probably a few more that have fallen but not died. Ben. He fell down that.
Yeah, he didn't die from the fall.
No, so I see where you're coming from. It is a bit of a cliche at this point in Star Wars.
There's a lot like Marvel too. If you fall and don't see them dead, then
it's like a Marvel. I think it's got to be something with John. It's
John Favreau thing. It's his fault.
I mean, I'm not against Mace coming back. He's a fun character. I think it'd be interesting to see his story fleshed out because we didn't really see much of him, even in Clone Wars and stuff. He is a pretty background character. I would like to see him kind of broken, kind of not following the Jedi ways. I want to see him be a little bit dark side. I think that would be fun. I'm just a little worried that it's like bringing back too many people. Because bringing Boba back is awesome, but then they bring Mace back, and it's like, who else are they going to bring back? It's like, can everybody
They'll bring
have
back Ezra? They'll bring back Thrawn.
Right? Can they bring anybody back if they want to, just to pad out the story? So
technically, if they bring into the World Between Worlds, they can.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to utilize the World Between Worlds like that to retcon things, because then you're going to have the whole
Star Trek
thing, and you're also going to have this. Well, this is the way that they can completely redo the sequel trilogy, and that's just not going to happen with it. Here's what I think is interesting. Now, refresh my memory again. We've only watched Clone Wars as an entire series, all 7 seasons, one time. We haven't gone back and rewatched a bunch of times and things like that. And we're not the big Clone Wars super fans that so many other people are. But isn't there a series of confrontations in one of the seasons of the Clone Wars, or a story arc in the Clone Wars between young Boba Fett and Mace Windu at some point?
I feel like there is.
I think so.
They follow Boba Fett at certain points when he's a bounty hunter and he's working with Aura Singh and I think Bosk and Dengar and stuff.
The Bounty Hunter Guild.
I'm pretty sure Mace comes into play a few times then. Because I think they bombed the temple or something, and he's investigating. So yeah, I think that's happened. I kind of hope they bring Mace back just so we can see that bad blood between him and Boba again. I think that would be a really neat story to see fleshed out when they're both older at this point.
Wouldn't it be cool, BB Nate, to see Boba Fett portrayed as sort of an anti-hero, but the primary, the character we root for in the book of Boba Fett.
The protagonist versus the antagonist.
Yeah. And not the hero, but an anti-hero protagonist, right?
Right.
And then have Mace Windu showing up at some point being sort of the villain, the antagonist of this. And
love that.
Maybe there's, he's a lot older. He's going to be 30 years older than that. We could see potentially he always walked the line of
even with his lightsabers,
like his
origins.
his fight style and everything. It's all like
it's very
like,
dark.
Yeah, and I don't
that
think that's canon at this point, because that was part of the Shadow Force. I think, or I can't remember the book, but that book where you kind of find out that he allows the dark side to flow through him.
He's more like a conduit,
as a conduit back into who he's battling and things like that. That's, I think, been pushed to the side because of Legends. But if they could bring it back, they're doing a lot of that right now, bringing things in from Legends. And what if we find that he's just maybe that's the way they bring in a gray Jedi? Maybe he's just become completely jaded and
unhinged.
He's a bad guy. Would you like to see a bad guy Mace Windu?
I would love it, but I don't know if people would enjoy that necessarily. I don't know if they would like the whole bad guy Mace Windu, because a lot of people loved Mace Windu as a character of who he was.
I think everyone's kind of got a little bit of, I guess, animosity towards Mace. He's kind of a jerk throughout the prequels. He's kind of a jerk to Anakin the whole time. You're allowed to be on this council, but you can't be a master, and all that. Or like even in season 7 of the Clone Wars, and like, sorry, we don't talk to civilians.
Yeah.
They kind of made him to be a bit of a jerk. So I think having him as a bad guy, I don't think anybody's going to really be against that.
But there are a lot of people that like Mace Windu as
I
a
like
character
Mace Windu as a character
that we saw. And so changing him to be a bad guy, I don't know if that would sit right with those people that absolutely love who Mace Windu was.
If they pull it off, I think they can. They make him. He's been jaded. He's pretty messed up at this point. He's been fighting to survive for 30 years now,
or in hiding or something.
The Jedi failed. It wouldn't surprise me if something in him snapped and he kind of went bad.
Would this be approved by the majority of fans? Probably, but there will always be a Star Wars fan that will complain about.
Well, that's going to be the case with anything that Star Wars happens. People are going to be upset about it. They cannot continue. You can't make decisions about Star Wars and the future of what happens based solely on will the fans, all the fans like this, or will there be this vocal minority? There are people that didn't like Luke Skywalker coming in the Mandalorian season finale. There are people that didn't like some of the best episodes of the season from our perspective, the most popular episodes of that. When you start trying to create the safest version of a story, you have a mess with it, and they can't do that. I think that I'd love to see Favreau and Filoni and Rodriguez take a risk and do something really, really crazy with this, and make Mace Windu a character that you don't like.
Yeah,
with it. And I think Samuel L. Jackson would be thrilled to come back and play that.
That seems like something he would get into.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we went to a movie yesterday.
Yay.
Wonder Woman 1984 is out, and this is probably going to be a very different response than you guys are reading online.
Well, you want the bad news or the really bad news?
No, we want good news, because we absolutely loved this movie. And the reason we're talking about it on the Star Wars podcast is because the next theatrical Star Wars film to be released is Rogue Squadron. It's going to be directed by Patty Jenkins. It will probably be out before Wonder Woman 3, which was announced just
today,
before we recorded the show. They announced that it's going to go into production, and it's green lighted. So talk about Wonder Woman 1984, not just from a perspective of the movie itself and the story, but what it means for going forward with Star Wars when it comes to Rogue Squadron. Start with you, Sam.
We spent the whole 30-minute drive home basically talking about how much we loved the movie, and not just like the story itself, but the way things were executed and handled. You had to be paying attention the whole time. Even the small little lines and little things all had meaning in the end, which is brilliant writing, but it wasn't thrown in your face. You got emotional connections to the characters, and it, like, in a short time. but it took the right amount of time too, which was good. It never felt slow. It was a long movie. It was 2.5 hours. It never once felt slow, but it wasn't, oh my gosh, I can't keep up with this either. It was beautifully directed. It was predictable in some aspects, but like, can we say spoilers? All right.
Yeah, but at this point, it's on HBO Max. I mean,
yeah, good point. Okay,
anybody has access.
We knew Steve was coming back, and we knew he's gonna have to die at some point because he's not in Justice League or Batman versus Superman and stuff. So we knew that was coming, and yet it still had an impact when she had to let him go. There was so many nuances to the movie that speak to how good of a director Patty Jenkins is, and honestly, I'm thrilled for her to do Rogue Squadron just based off of this movie.
BB Nate, you're the DC guy with this. Your favorite thing outside of Star Wars, maybe even more than Star Wars sometimes, is Batman, and you've been defending to some extent the DC the DC expanded universe, or is that what they call it? The film universe, DC EU. You've been honest about your thoughts, at least with us. We don't talk about it on the show, but outside the show about like Justice League and how you're excited about the Snyder Cut coming out and all of this. Why did you like this movie so much?
I just felt like it was comedic and funny and romantic when it needed to be, and didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like it was shoving down cheese down your throat. It was, the action sequences were good, few and far between, but that was not a problem because Patty Jenkins came out and said this is going to be a rom-com with a few action scenes, so we knew what to expect. The ending wasn't a giant battle between Wonder Woman and Maxwell Lord. It was
like the end of the first movie.
It was a personal conversation talking to the man inside that she knew was still there. And of course, loved how they used Beautiful Lie during that sequence and kind of Batman's theme from Batman v Superman. And it just was a very well directed, well made movie. And the thing is, while it was a very different take on origins of Cheetah, it was a great way to introduce her into the universe and how different and conflicted she was, and everything with Diana and her. It was great. It was a very well produced and directed movie, and so I'm excited.
Yeah, no, and you were mentioning it was like a rom-com with a few action sequences. It didn't feel like
it didn't feel like
rom-com.
Sleepless in Seattle meets DC,
Not at all. It had the elements of it, right? Like I could see those elements, but it wasn't like a rom-com. It still felt like a superhero movie somehow. I mean, it's almost hard to put the movie in a genre just because it does so many different things really well all at once, under the radar, while you don't even notice it.
That's how I'm going to put it.
I mean, like, you don't even notice what it's doing, but it does it so well, almost. It's hard to explain. And where, you were talking about, like, the negative reviews and stuff, and we have, like, a theory as to why that might be the case. We know that this was released on HBO Max at the same time that it was released in theaters, and since we are movie buffs, we decided we're going to go spend a bunch of money and go watch it in a theater because we just...
Even though we had HBO Max.
Right. We love going to movie theaters, and we watched it and we're like, this is amazing. And then a lot of reviews are saying, I didn't get it, I missed this, they didn't explain this,
I literally saw somebody say, they didn't show how Diana just got the golden armor. Where did she get that from?
Yeah, we think what happened, it was a lot of the people who were giving these reviews watched it at home on HBO Max, and they were distracted. They were on their phones, or they were going to the bathroom, or whatever, because you're at home, things are going to distract you more than if you're at a theater. And I think that's what constitutes to these negative reviews. When you're at a theater, your attention is 100% on the movie, or at least it should be. I don't know why you're on your phone in your theater. But it allows you to focus and notice all the little nuances and things that you wouldn't notice if you're on your phone watching the movie. And so that's why we think some of these negative reviews are coming out. So if you're going to watch them, if you haven't watched the movie yet, I don't know why you would be listening to that. Well, I guess they wouldn't know.
This is Star Wars podcast, so we didn't really spoil anything.
No, not really. If you're going to watch it, make sure you're not distracted, and you will appreciate the movie a lot more that way.
BB Nate, why do you think people have had so many moviegoers or viewers have had a negative reaction to this?
I mean, I think that it is the whole at-home thing. I was talking with somebody, and they said, yeah, I mean, for like half an hour, my dog jumped onto my lap, and I was just petting him, and I totally got lost where I was, and I didn't want to rewind it. So it's just a lot of... I'm not saying everybody got distracted. Not saying that everybody that didn't like it was at home and got distracted. That's not the case, because a lot of people did go to theaters, and they might not have liked it, which is fine. But I think that this is why movie theaters are so important. And I've always loved movies. I love going to the theater. It's like my favorite thing to do. And so the experience, and you notice so much more on the big screen, and just the environment. It's just all of that comes together for you to be able to just fully enjoy and be able to judge the movie 100% as much as you want.
For me, it's interesting because, you know, BB Nate, you're the DC guy. You love this. You've read thousands of pages of DC comics, and that's not an exaggeration.
No.
That's legitimately true. Thousands of pages of DC comics. You love the DC storylines, right? And then, you know, I was into DC, but really just into Batman and some Superman. I mean, Batman and Superman 30 years ago, that was my jam.
The world's finest.
You know, that stuff. Death in the Family, and the death and resurrection of Superman, and all of those. Those are the storylines that I remember and loved. But I don't know about any of the stuff that's happened since then. And so I went into it blind. I went into it completely not even sure if I was going to like it. I didn't like Batman versus Superman the first time I saw it. I've seen the Ultimate Edition. It's better. We watched Justice League last weekend. Not Snyder Cut, because it's not out yet. So we watched the original Justice League, and it was fine. I didn't have the problem that other people had with it. I fell asleep during the action sequences because I thought they were just overdone and boring and didn't really have any bearing on the story. But anyway, fell asleep during the action sequences. I went into this concerned that I had questions. I had questions about how is this cheetah thing going to work, because that seemed weird. I had questions about Steve Trevor and how he was going to come back and what that meant, having seen Justice League and having seen Batman versus Superman. He's not around. How are they going to resolve that storyline in the right way? I felt very satisfied with this movie. And then the more we spoke about the underlying sort of moral message that was, the theme of it, which we won't get into on this because we don't want to have spoilers, but the theme of this movie and what it's trying to communicate, I became more and more excited about it. And, you guys, I think BB Nate, you even said something about this when we were coming home yesterday. It reminds me of my reaction to The Last Jedi. The first time I watched The Last Jedi, I walked out of the theater and I was like, I like that movie, but I've got to process this movie.
Right.
I liked Wonder Woman 1984. I said it as soon as the credits started to roll. I leaned over and I was like, that was a good movie. Mm-hmm. But the more I talked, just like with The Last Jedi, the more I thought about it, the more I processed it, the more I discussed it. The more I fell in love with The Last Jedi, the more I think about this movie, Wonder Woman 1984, the more I talk about it, the more I process it, the more I love Wonder Woman 1984. And so I feel like this is going to have somewhat of a similar response in the fan community as The Last Jedi.
Which worries me about Rogue Squadron, because do you think it's going to elicit a similar reaction?
No.
Explain, BB Nate.
Because people... at least most people are not judging directors by their old movies. I mean, Rian Johnson did The Last Jedi. That was, as we all know, a mixed bag. Then he released Knives Out. That got overwhelmingly positive reviews from both critics and audience. So people that didn't like The Last Jedi liked Knives Out. So you can't judge. People don't judge movies, directors by
Star Wars fans are going to.
And here's the other thing: Rian Johnson's personality is snarky. It pokes at people. He uses Twitter to come back. He especially for the first year or so after The Last Jedi came out, he fought back with. I mean, we were part of AV Club's 2018 worst moments of the year.
Of the year, yeah.
It was number 3, I think.
Why were we there?
Because Adam Lance Garcia and us, we were on a thread about The Last Jedi, defending it, and Ryan Johnson read it and chimed in on it and took offense at, or took, he took action against some things that people were saying about it on there, and then was like, I'll be at the bar, and disappeared and didn't respond to anything that they said. And it blew up, and it was like a big controversy, and all of that, that kind of stuff has made it worse for The Last Jedi. It has made it worse for Ryan Johnson. I'll admit that. Okay. Patty Jenkins isn't going to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just not her personality. All right, she's a very positive person. She had a fantastic response from fans on Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman. I think that as people rewatch this movie, watch it multiple times, you're going to find more people like this movie, Wonder Woman 1984. I'm going to watch it again on HBO Max. I'm excited about it, and I do think that visually, story-wise, everything that you look for in a director in this movie, I was very excited about, and I'm more excited now about Rogue Squadron than I was before watching Wonder Woman 1984.
Definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Well, we're going to go to our poll in just a second, but we're going to let's just explain before we get to the poll that about, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes after we put this poll out last week, Star Wars basically sabotaged our poll with that. We'll talk all about that after this break.
Are you brainless?
I never asked that question till after I've done it. What?
Okay, so I guess I'll explain what I was just talking about when it comes to what happened with Star Wars. So I put the poll out, I don't know, it was like 6 a.m. on 7 a.m. Eastern time on Monday, and it was all about season 3 of The Mandalorian, and then we had 3 options, and then our traditional other comment below. So that it was basically finish this sentence: season 3 of The Mandalorian will pick up right away. Will be the Book of Boba Fett. We'll have a time jump or other comment below. And then just like 5 minutes after I put this poll out, Jon Favreau on Good Morning America basically told that Book of Boba Fett is not season 3 of The Mandalorian, that it is his own series, and so basically it sabotaged our poll. Everybody was just like, "What's the point of the poll?" But anyway, hey, it was fun. We got some votes on there. 2.2% said other comment below. Not a lot of feedback on that. 4.3% had not heard about the Jon Favreau announcement when they answered this poll. So they thought it would be the Book of Boba Fett, which obviously isn't the case. And then we really only have 2 options after that. We'll pick up right away. So season 3 will pick up right after season 2, or season 3 will have a time jump. Where do you guys land on those 2?
I did time jump.
Well, I think I said right in between, pick up right away and a time jump. I don't think it's going to happen right after season 2. I think it'll maybe have like a year or 2 jump, if that.
Okay. Well, it was a relatively close poll. Not I guess in an election this would be in a landslide. But anyway, we'll pick up right away. Got 39.1%, and we'll have a time jump of it got 54.3% on that. Any surprises on the way that went?
No, a little bit. I didn't think as many people were going to be interested in the whole time jump thing.
Yeah, that was a surprising
The easy way
number.
to go out is pick up right away, because it can be a couple days after, and it's technically still is pick up right away. So that's the kind of the easy.
Yeah,
way.
and when I say we'll pick up right away, what I was thinking was like what we saw between 1 and 2, season 1 and 2. It basically continued the story right where it was left off. When I think of time jump, I'm thinking year, 2, 3, 4 years, which I think would be really interesting. I also think it could be a cop-out to let them move the story ahead with it.
Well, that's why I think Book of Boba Fett is a thing, because, like I said, I think that's going to bridge the gap, and then the time jumps for Mandalorian Season 3 is going to take place after that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this week's poll is going to be all about the greatest moments of 2020 for Star Wars fans on that. We've got our own things. We're going to share about those in just a second, but we've got the greatest Star Wars moment of 2020 was either the resurrection of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
The new content announcements. We've got the return of, or actually I had Ahsoka on there as well with that, and then other comment below. Which would you pick of those?
I think we all know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
Probably new announcements, because there was just so much that...
That's a close second for me, though.
Yeah, it was a fun year. We'll talk all about it here in just a second, right after this break. This is Tatooine Sons. All right, let's just be honest here. 2020 has sucked with it. But
we're usually pretty positive, so that's saying something coming from us.
For the world around us, 2020 has been pretty bad. But something went really well this year, and it was Star Wars. And that's kind of a surprise, a bit unexpected. Between the amazing cameos in The Mandalorian, the return of the Clone Wars, and then the announcement of a ton of new shows coming, we've got a lot to celebrate.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force.
If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
All right, let's do this. Let's talk about the things that we loved about 2020 when it comes to Star Wars. Let's go with you first, BB Nate. I know we talked about lots of options on here. You got one you wanted to talk about.
Ahsoka, for finally coming to live action. Very well done by Rosario Dawson. She's also, I think, the second person to pull off a hat trick for Disney.
Explain.
She's been in a Disney show. She's been in Marvel, and she's been in Star Wars now.
What was the Disney show?
Elena Avalor is like a Disney Channel TV show, and then she was in Daredevil, I think.
Yeah, she was the nurse.
No, I know she was in Daredevil.
And then, of course, Ahsoka. So
it's kind of like Ming-Na Wen.
Congrats.
She was in Marvel. Mm-hmm. She was obviously in The Mandalorian, and she's also was in Mulan.
Yeah. So, cool. And of course, that excited me very much when she said, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" And that means she's finally getting somewhere with this journey that I've been waiting almost 4 years for. Wow.
Yeah.
Hurry up already. We got the announcement of
you can talk about that. Go for it.
Which really excited me. That was probably the thing I took away from that night and was the most excited about, because we're getting somewhere. And the whole logo with what looks to be the world between worlds is
looks
great.
A lot like it.
We might be getting more to stuff in live action, which would be fantastic, because that's the most visually stunning animation from Clone Wars is the Mortis arc. So
yeah, I'm
excited.
Wouldn't it be cool to see Sam Witwer playing Mortis' son in live action? With that'd be cool. Samuel LaHutt, when BB Nate's talking about all the things that happened with Ahsoka this year, he was started by mentioning the live action version of it, and that makes sense. But we've got Clone Wars season 7. We've got her making her live action debut in chapter 13 of The Mandalorian, and then we have the announcement of the Ahsoka series. Could 2020 actually be considered the year of Ahsoka?
I mean, yeah, she's gotten so much content and so many upgrades, for lack of a better term, this year. It very well could be. I mean, she has just taken over in Star Wars. She got really got the spotlight this year. What's up, Nate?
And I mean, it's not the year of Ahsoka; it's the year of Filoni. And when you have Filoni, you have Ahsoka. So
that's a good point.
Filoni helmed all the Star Wars content that came out this year. Well, not books wise, but animation and live action wise, he had a part in both. And Ahsoka is his girl. Mm-hmm. That's his creation in Clone Wars and in Rebels, and he has to have her in all of his work, I guess.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me. We were just talking in the previous or a couple segments ago during Hot Takes about Wonder Woman 1984 and some of the fan reaction to it, and we talk about The Last Jedi all the time on this because we love The Last Jedi. We think it's the most amazing,
great movie
of the sequel trilogy, and I put it up there on par with Empire Strikes Back as far as my fandom goes when it comes to Star Wars. But we have to remember, everybody's celebrating Ahsoka right now. They're super excited about the Ahsoka series. Everybody was weeping over season 7 of the of the Clone Wars. Her appearance in chapter 13 was amazing, making her live action debut. Ahsoka was hated as a character when she was first brought out. Oh, she was hated. Yeah, I mean, she did not at all resonate with the fans. They didn't like who she was. They didn't like the way that she acted. They didn't like the fact that Anakin Skywalker had a Padawan we hadn't heard of, and now he did. And it took time. This character had to grow with us. And that, to me, is a testament to George Lucas and to Dave Filoni with the Clone Wars, that they didn't let fan reaction guide the future of that character and that story. They knew where they wanted to take that character. They knew who she was. George Lucas knew when he decided, I'm going to give a Padawan to Anakin Skywalker, that something had to happen to that Padawan.
Right.
And he knew the story he wanted to tell with her to some extent. I don't know if I'm sure it evolved over the 6 seasons that he was involved with the show. But in the end, he had a story he wanted to tell, and he wasn't going to let fan reaction change that with it. And I think that's important for us as Star Wars fans to step back and remember things like Ahsoka and how she was not liked. But over time, we grew to love her with it. Now she's one of the most popular characters in all of Star Wars at this point. And I am super excited about the Ahsoka series coming out. I loved seeing her in live action. I can't wait to see where we go from that. All right, good. Samuel, let's just, all right, go.
Boba's back. I told y'all. Y'all didn't believe me, but I believed it this whole time.
I don't know why
he was
you
never
keep
dead.
saying that.
I'm just saying that to all the doubters. Not necessarily all, but just everybody. Boba's came back, which is awesome, and he proved why he's the best bounty hunter ever. We saw that in, what was it, chapter 15?
Yeah.
I don't know.
14, yeah.
Yeah, chapter 14. He showed why he's so feared.
Mando hasn't had his jetpack bumped by a blind guy, and he hasn't.
Look, that was a long time ago, all right? He's grown a little bit. You know, he was living on Tatooine for a while. He had to improve a bit. So he's better now, okay?
And
plus, he looks awesome.
As soon as he says, I'm going to take care of the baby gets snatched. So I don't know if he's considered the best, but okay.
Okay. I'm
not sure why he's all up on arms about this all of a sudden.
Hey,
he's just being a little brother is what it is. With it.
But I was so glad that he's back. I'm so excited that they're going to be doing a show following this new version of Boba Fett. Well, I mean, not new, but improved, I guess, version of Boba Fett.
Refined.
More fleshed out. Yeah, refined. He looks amazing with the new painted armor. I love it. He clearly kicks butt. He can handle his own, even when he's old and he's been a little bit... he's been marinating for a little bit in a Sarlacc.
Oh, that's terrible.
Wonder what marinated... people in Sarlacc juice taste like.
Yeah, I wonder what he smells like. Is that like got a permanent effect or something? Yeah. Anyway, that took a weird turn. But there's a lot of Boba Fett fans out there. You know, the whole Mando Mercs Club started because of Boba Fett. So there's a lot of fans out there who are super excited that this character is back and he's getting the treatment he deserves and that we all wanted to see from him. So it's been a good year for Boba fans for sure.
So do you think that we're finally getting more Slave 1 content, which hasn't happened since the early 2000s when the first Slave 1 Lego set was released?
Oh, you're talking about like in Lego.
Do you think that we see another Lego set with the newly painted Boba Fett?
Maybe. I
have a feeling that we're going to get a lot of Boba Fett Lego content.
Although I just had a quick aside. Mando doesn't have a ship, but only Fennec Shand and Boba were on Tatooine. Where the heck is Mando?
They dropped him off at a McDonald's. So they
dropped him off with the mechanic lady up in Mos Eisley.
On Tatooine?
Yeah,
probably.
That makes sense. BB Nate, you're not as, you've been teasing Samuel the Hutt about this, but it's clear Boba Fett's not your guy like it has been for him. What do you think about sort of the resurrection of Boba Fett?
It worked. This is the Mandalorian. He is, I guess, a Mandalorian. It's still up in the air, of course, because they can never answer a question. But it made sense to bring him back in this series, and back to live action is great. We got to see the version that all of the Boba fans finally wanted to see, the rough and brutal and just unforgiving Boba Fett that we've heard in Legends that just is just so dirty. And so I'm sure that they were all
That's
happy
what we're
to
getting.
see him.
And I'm
We're
kind
going
of
to get
glad he's back to being a bad guy now, being that crime lord.
Right. You know, it's funny because Boba Fett is almost the exact opposite of Ahsoka. Boba Fett really didn't deserve. Let's just be honest. You'll admit this, Sam. He didn't have much in the original trilogy. He was just a cool looking character.
That's the only reason he got fans was because he looked neat.
Absolutely. I mean, and he was loved because he looked cool for a long time. And this is the other thing that's beautiful about Star Wars. While I just got done saying we got to commend George Lucas and Dave Filoni and others for not listening to the fans when it came to Ahsoka, there is this point where it's okay to listen to the fans.
Yeah, fans
loved Boba Fett.
There's a fine line.
You know, but they didn't. It's not like they changed their entire story and gave up on a storyline to bring Boba Fett back. They're like, people love Boba Fett. And he is a cool character. And we're doing this Mandalorian thing. It only makes sense that we get Boba Fett back. And they did. And they brought him in. And it was super fun. And I can't wait to see the book of Boba Fett and what is going to happen with that. That's going to be awesome. Which leads me to my thing. It's the announcements. I lived through both dark ages within the Star Wars history. I was 2 years old when A New Hope came out. We talked about this on the show. I watched it as a very little kid. I played with the HBO baby. I watched it in the back. I played with the characters in my backyard. We got the storybooks. I can remember literally renting or checking out the photo storybook version of Return of the Jedi and reading it in the bathtub, laying it on the edge of the bathtub while I'm taking a bath as a little kid, 8-year-old kid, and reading it to the story because I couldn't go see the movie in the movie theater. And so, and then, once we saw the films and then they were over.
Yep.
And there was this period. And of course, we got Thrawn with Heir to the Empire. We got, all of the Legends stuff that came in. But for me, the stories have always really been the films or live action,
right.
And then it became animation a little bit more, but it's that medium that matters the most to me. And so then we went years until the special editions came out. And so in 97, we got to see those. That was awesome. That was the first time I got to see any of those films in the movie theater. It was fantastic. First time Mom saw any of the films because she went with me. And then we got the announcement that The Phantom Menace was coming, or the episode 1 was coming out. And we got that period, and that was so much fun between 99 and 2005 to see Star Wars in the theaters again and to anticipate that. But then it was over.
Again.
Again. And we went through this period where, you know what, I wasn't going to start picking up, the New Jedi Order and the books and stuff like that. That's just not what I wanted to do. And we always kind of thought it was over.
And so we started to get really, really into Marvel. That was the thing we watched.
Exactly. And then, they announced that they're making these Star Wars movies and we get them. And there was a point where you kind of I wondered if we were going to get Star Wars after episode 9.
Yeah.
That we didn't know that they were going to be doing Disney Plus and The Mandalorian and Clone Wars was over and Rebels was awesome, but it ended before episode 9. And episode 9 finishes out. You kind of wonder. And we knew before episode 9 came that we were getting The Mandalorian, but I don't think any of us expected the announcements that were going to come this year. We didn't expect to be getting
the sheer number.
Yeah, to be getting Rangers of the New Republic, Acolyte,
Lando.
I mean, the Bad Batch stuff was exciting when we got that first one. Lando's coming. The Rogue Squadron, Ahsoka, Boba Fett. There's all the droid stuff.
Tale. Yeah.
There's a ton of Star Wars stuff coming. And for me,
Cassian,
Andor.
Yeah. Andor, excuse me.
The Andor series. I mean, Kenobi.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that.
All of this stuff's coming, and we knew Kenobi, we knew Andor were coming, but there's so much more happening with Star Wars. And if they announced all this stuff and held back Book of Boba Fett, what else are they holding back? BB Nate, they could be doing the Rebel stuff. They could be doing all of these things, and we don't even know. And because they've made the decision that they're going to make Disney Plus the go-to space for action stuff. And Marvel is just, it's massive on that platform.
Well, I'm very happy. This is kind of off the trail of Star Wars, but I'm just happy that Marvel's releasing all of their movies in theaters and theaters alone.
Yeah, I think that's going to make a difference. And I think that was a calculated risk that DC and Warner Brothers made with Wonder Woman 1984. And I think in the end, I think it's going to bite them a little bit with the success of the movie. But we'll see. With it, I do think seeing it in the movie theater made a big difference for us with it. But that's for me the best thing that could have happened in 2020 was to have all of those announcements.
Yeah.
And I really am I bummed that we didn't get to be at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim, where they probably were planning on making most of these announcements, and it was going to be like
unreal,
geeking out with 75,000 other Star Wars fans. Absolutely, but can't be more excited about the future of Star Wars at this point.
Now we just have to hope for 2023.
Yeah, Anaheim or 2022. It's 22. Oh, the movie. Are you talking about Celebration?
Oh, Celebration. Yeah, I forgot that
22.
we're just so close to 21.
There's so much more, though, that happened this year. I mean, real quick, just kind of. I mean, we didn't even talk about Clone Wars.
Lightning round.
We talked a little bit about it as we were talking about Ahsoka, but we got Clone Wars in May, or in the March through May. It was awesome, ending on May the 4th.
I mean, we started exploring a brand new era in Star Wars with the High Republic. You know, we got all the books and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's coming out in just a few days, in a week.
In Galaxy's Edge, the game. You know, I mean, there's that's going to open up a lot of doors.
Speaking of games, we got 2 new Star Wars games, both with campaigns. That rhymed. We had Squadrons that took place after Episode 6 about both an Empire and a Rebel New Republic. It actually dealt with Hera a lot, so that was great. That was a good campaign. Great game in itself for multiplayer. We got Tales from the Galaxy's Edge campaign. Little bit disappointing, underwhelming, in my opinion. But
still a fun game.
Very fun. But the expansion, that was fantastic. That was a very glorious...
They've given an expansion to that?
That was the High Republic thing.
It came out immediately with the game for free.
Okay, the DLC. Okay.
That was a glorious 15 minutes that frightened me and made me excited for the next expansion and for the future of the High Republic. It's made me happy.
Little aside, both of those games had VR components. One was exclusively VR. The other had a VR.
And I think that's
capability.
why Mr. Martin said that he's excited for the future of gaming.
And all that we've talked about here, we haven't mentioned that Luke Skywalker returned to Star Wars. We got to see Luke Skywalker.
That's not that important. I mean,
yeah, you jerk. You're still bitter about Ezra not being.
I kind of am
with it. Yeah, we got to see Luke Skywalker again, and he kicked tail. On that.
That was unreal.
2020 was an awesome year to be a Star Wars fan, and I think the future is very exciting and bright.
Not fun to be a Marvel fan. 0 things for Marvel content this year.
Yeah, exactly. We could have been doing a Marvel podcast. Would have been
that was
a lot harder this year. Glad we're Star Wars fans. I mean, we're Marvel fans too, but
not as extreme.
Not the same. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Oh, am I first?
Yeah.
That new Dianoga. If you go to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, they've got, like, when you go to the water drinking fountain, there's this Dianoga that shows up, which is a really cool
Every
thing.
now and then.
Yeah. But they've released a new Dianoga toy that's available at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and we'll be there in just a few days.
Yeah, it's just another thing we're going to mention. We're heading to Savvy's Workshop to ring in the new year. On New Year's Day, we're going to Hollywood Studios. We're going to go to Batu. And we're going to go, and Nathan and I are going to build some custom sabers.
I'm going to build an elemental and nature
I don't
saber.
remember which style I'm going for, but I'm super excited. I have not watched the videos.
Yeah, you guys know nothing.
Nathan has.
I've watched the whole experience, but it was like right as it opened, and I remember absolutely nothing from it. I remember a couple images, but I don't remember.
So I'm super hyped about that. I'm going to get my own fancy little saber. It's going to be
And then I'm going to go to Fallen Order and build that exact same saber in it because Matt Martin said you can.
That's so cool. And then what's the last one there?
Ming-Na Wen has nothing but love for Gina Carano, and same reverse.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. They did this love fest on when Book of Boba Fett was announced, and Ming-Na Wen was geeking out on Twitter about how excited she was to be having this dream to be able to be in Star Wars and a major character in the series. And Gina Carano responded about how excited she was for her, and Ming-Na Wen responded back about how much she loves working with her and how excited they are. It was this love fest. It was a lot of fun. So very cool. All right. I guess that's our show.
That is?
We're done.
Wow.
That was awesome. It's the last show of the year.
Aww.
It's been a good year for us too, with the Facebook series that we were able to do and everything. It's been
Disney.
It's been a lot of fun. We can't do this without you. And the fact that you guys love us and listen to the show and respond and play play with us a little bit in our silliness on Twitter and Facebook and such. We appreciate it, and we want you guys to know we do this because we love doing it together, but at the same time we do it because we know you guys love it, and we want you to know how much we appreciate it. So share,
just thank you for sticking with us for the crazy year and the shaky schedule. That's the best way to put it.
That last half of the year especially.
This shaky release schedule of our podcast, but thank you for sticking with us and keep listening to the episodes as they come out. And so, and
we're going to be pretty consistent in 2021. That's a goal of ours. So
yeah, I mean, thank you all. I mean, we know, we try to be a source of positivity and stuff, but it certainly helps when you guys are positive to us. It helps keep us going. Helps us get through the year and stuff, just knowing that y'all are out there and this show makes a difference for y'all. We appreciate it so much. So
if you could share our content, encourage other people to subscribe to the show. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you mash down that button and make sure you don't miss any of the episodes as they come out. We're excited about next week. We got Dan Z on talking about the High Republic, and so that should
always
be
fun talking to Dan.
Yeah, first time we had Dan on the show, we talked about High Republic. It was right after some of the new things had come out, so I wanted to bring him on to do this. So that's going to be a lot of fun. All right, anything else that you guys want to talk about?
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.